Welcome back to Mentored, where we do some business mentoring in real time. Hi, Alyssa.
Hi, Willows.
How are you doing?
Pretty good.
That's good. So you are my real life business mentee. Would you say that is a correct
Yeah. Is
thing
there
to
not
say?
another word for it?
It's definitely mentor mentee,
Hmm.
100%. So Alyssa, I guess what do you need? What do you need mentored on today?
How long do you have?
Let's start talking. We'll see where we go.
Yeah, no. Okay, so my business is very farmers market based.
Yeah.
As you know, we don't have a storefront. For all the listeners at home, I run a bakery with my sister, little micro bakery. We do a lot of farm to table stuff.
Nano bakery, one
It's
could
called
say.
Prairie. We're trying to grow. All right, we're on our second season. I say second, the first one was not a full one, so I don't know. We did 1 year.
This is basically, I would consider this your first real year.
Yeah, I agree.
Of actually.
Well, I feel like I have it a little bit more figured out. Not completely, obviously, but this is the first real year where we're like, oh, I think we might have something.
Yeah.
The first was a test. Anyway, so we just do farmers markets. We do wholesale with our best client, Shrugging Doctor.
Oh.
I was gonna make a joke, but our best client. And then we do a little bit of online orders, but that's also something that we're trying to figure out. So yeah, okay. So I guess we'll just get into that. My biggest struggle right now is figuring out what to do for the next season. Because ideally, we want to open a storefront. We want to have locations. We want to be open all year round. But it's at what point do you make the jump from not just farmers markets? Because you could do that your whole life. I could do that forever and be fine.
Yeah.
But are we really growing? Not really. So I think that's a good place to start.
Sure. Yeah. So I'll give you my, the best way I can do it is relate it to my story. And then, so as far as I'm in the liquor industry and alcohol in where we live is very restrictive. So we need a whole health inspected facility. We needed a building and rent and all this stuff before we were able to open.
Yeah.
So that's the thing is people always ask me what I did, and I'm like, well, I jumped full bore into it.
Right, but I guess it's
but I didn't have
to.
I didn't have an option.
Yeah,
So-
for us, we're allowed to do it at home.
Yeah, so if I could have done it at home, made the wine at home and then sold it with no overhead, would I have started like that? And I guess that's the real question, and I don't actually know. I don't have an answer for you. Because I don't like to kind of run backwards and be like, oh, if this had been different, would I have changed stuff? It's I don't think that's a healthy exercise.
You also don't know, you can't accurately say how that would go.
Yeah. So it's definitely having bills and whatnot was kept me motivated. It was a good way to oh, I need to sell this amount this month because I have bills coming up. Do you find that hard where it's if you have a good month, do you find it hard to you're why am I still doing this? I made a bunch of money.
What do you mean?
Okay, you do you have one market that does way overperforms.
Yeah.
And you sell a month's worth of money in one weekend. And then you have another market scheduled for the next week, but it's going to be kind of slow. Do you ever be we shouldn't even do it? We already made a good enough money this month.
No.
Okay.
No.
See, and that's good. And that's what I mean is if you have self-motivation, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I have also commitment motivation.
Mm-hmm.
It's if we told someone we were going to be there.
Yeah.
That's why we show up, even though we've me and my, I'm going to go back and forth between business partner and sister. It's they're interchangeable.
It's the same person.
So just so you guys know at home, I'll do my best to be business savvy, but me and my business partner, we talk about this a lot, where we know that some are just going to be bad. But we committed to do it for a season, so it's we don't have to do it next year. It's stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it's also when we started, we were excited when we make $200, and now we do that in market and we're like, well, that wasn't that great.
Yeah.
But it's also like $200 that we didn't have.
Yeah.
And it's not a loss. Like for us, we're running at we have a very low overhead. We pay mostly just for supplies and like transportation, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Market fees.
Yeah.
But like we don't have a building.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And so.
Or staff. Staff is like, that's, yeah. Like if you're sending someone to a market, you're paying them $150, you're only making $200 on it.
Yeah.
Then I guess maybe my mindset would be different, but.
Yeah. Well, you see how much it costs to keep good employees.
Well, I know how much you pay me.
That's what I mean. Yeah. So it's like there's two schools of thought because, and we've had long conversations about this where like, I do recommend to people to kind of jump all in and just go and just make it work. Kind of like, I think it was the founder of LinkedIn said, entrepreneurs are like jumping off a cliff and then building the hang glider on the way down. And that's kind of that's what I did for the first business. Right. So I depends on people's situation. For a lot of entrepreneurs, I do just recommend they quit their job, quit school, and just go full bore into their good idea and double down. Mm-hmm. But the problem is it needs to work. Like the model needs to work. Not saying yours doesn't, but like just as a general piece of advice.
Yeah. I mean, like any business, right?
You know, but as soon as something is working, I think I usually recommend people kind of double down. That being said, though, now running two businesses with employees in a building and insurance and you know, name a thing. I'm like dreaming of having a business with no overhead that can just like operate out of my mom's basement.
Yeah.
And pay very little in operating costs, and then would take a lot of stress out of the out of the equation, right?
Yeah.
So it's like I think I've come around on that. Getting older is like I would, if you would ask me at 21, I would have been like, yeah, fuck it, jump in, get a building, do it day one, do it now, with no money, doesn't matter, just do it. Yeah. You'll figure it out. But now at 28, I'm kind of like, well, there's definitely some upside to not having overhead that kind of just eats through your, because like we both businesses, but particularly business number one, which I started from nothing, had a lot of setbacks related to not having any cash. Yeah. So like we'd constantly not be able to make products. We'd be like sold out of stuff. We couldn't deliver to clients to the liquor stores because we just didn't have enough money to make everything. And that definitely hurt growth a lot. Yeah. And if I had just come in well funded, we would have probably been able to get farther. Like the pandemic notwithstanding, I probably would be farther along today than I am now if I had funding to begin with.
Right. Like if you didn't have like that like struggle of
trying to make ends meet. Yeah, and all the money of the operation going to rent and whatnot. Right.
Yeah. Well, because you guys weren't able to like pay yourself for a while. Right?
2.5 years was the first paycheck we took.
Right.
Yeah, and I was basically just living on a credit card for a while. Yeah. Yeah. So.
Which I mean, it's like one of those things where it's like you got to respect the hustle for sure, but I think maybe also where it's good for me is like I get to like kind of learn through you and like I'm in a good position where I'm able to like not build from stress. And so I think that's also why I'm hesitant to just jump all in.
Yeah, because I guess like the other thing that I tell people is like it's kind of like the whole like a lot of people that like get deep in credit card debt on a bunch of different credit cards, they like take like a loan consolidation loan and just and then their credit cards are at zero, so then they just spend more on their credit cards because now they're at zero.
Yeah.
Same mentality where I've seen people, if they're like home based or whatever and they have no overhead, then all that extra money they go just gets blown.
Yeah.
And it just gets spent on bullshit and not actually like improving the business because they don't have to.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not really worried with you particularly that would happen, but it's like if you're like, oh, we don't have rent so we can pay ourselves more,
Yeah.
then it's like, okay, well, I want to make sure that money's getting invested properly.
Absolutely.
Otherwise it's just like, you should have expenses then. Like,
Yeah.
So
No,
I don't know,
I
because
agree.
like any dollar that you're not putting into the business, I think needs to have a pretty good justification of why it's not.
Yeah.
As like I don't want to say baby entrepreneur, but
No, but like
as
actually,
a baby entrepreneur, I think
feel
like
like a baby.
any dollar that's not going towards growing your business, I want to hear a good justification.
Yeah.
Of where
I
it's
agree.
going. If it's going to groceries, fine. If it's going to rent, fine. If it's going to a night out because you need to de-stress, fine.
Yeah.
But where do you have $4,000 of rare Funko Pops?
Yeah,
Because you're taking more salary out of your business than you
collectible.
should be. Yeah.
Just kidding. I don't
Okay,
own any. I
that's-
just want that to be clear.
That's an investment, so
Yeah.
that's fine. But
Just gonna grow in value, all right?
that's what I'm saying. Speculative assets. So I don't know. So that's kind of where I'm at. It's like, should you like, we're coming out of the summer season here, so you're not doing any farmers markets anymore, or
Yeah.
a few Christmas ones here and there, but
Yeah. It's not as crazy. That's
not
for
as
sure.
crazy. So
Yeah.
do you jump in and get a building and a lease and all that? Like,
Yeah. Because
do you disrupt something that is working, I guess?
yeah, because it's like what we're doing. Like it's obviously like it's working. We're doing well. We have to pay taxes now, which I genuinely don't want to get into on this episode because it is so frustrating. Like that's the worst part about owning a business for me. I'm gonna be honest. And it's like, okay, tears. You own your own business. You work for yourself. Like, stop crying. But like, I'm not a numbers person. I want to make bread. I
Yeah,
don't want to pay the government taxes. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. But we're doing well enough that the government says, give me some of that.
Yeah. Give me that.
Please. Well, also not, but we'll get into that. And so we're in a position where we are still able to like continue on the up. So I'm torn between like, do we use what we like saved, what we worked towards, put that towards building a storefront? I mean, we got to take out a loan anyway to like fund all of it, or do we continue building for another year, get some different equipment that we could take with us, and then like continue that like upwards, because it's like the storefront I feel like is a lot more iffy than like a farmer's market.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I guess it's like, do you think you're going to be stagnated this year? Like, do you think you're going to do the same amount this summer in sales? Summer 2025, do you think you'll do the same amount of sales as you did summer 2024, or are you going to do more?
I think we'll do more.
So,
because we were like hindered by our production.
Yeah.
We couldn't keep up. We would sell out.
But now you're planning on buying more equipment.
Yeah.
And that equipment can go in the house that you're making stuff out of.
Yeah.
So you don't necessarily need a bigger spot. You can go into better equipment right now.
Yeah.
Because I would probably change my mind if like, if you're going to do the same amount of sales for the next 3 years and not do any progression, then it's like, okay, well, you need to take the next step. But it sounds like the next step might be just hitting what you're already doing a little bit better or more, bigger.
Well, because and that's something that I would like to do. Like, for me, as long as we're not staying stagnant, like even if it's like a little bit better than last year, like that is worth it to me. I feel like we're doing a good job.
Yeah.
But like, we don't need to like double what we did, but it'd be cool to like do 2 markets in one day.
Yeah.
Like, and we don't have the like production space or like actual time to do that right now, but we would if we got more equipment. It just stayed where we were.
Yeah. So I think it's like, it's hard to know exactly, because it's also like, I don't think it's a particularly good time to be getting into getting a commercial building.
Yeah, see, I've heard that a lot.
I think rates are very high right now. I think it's people aren't quite desperate enough. They're still kind of holding on. Survive to 25. That's what people keep saying. They're just like, oh, it'll get better. Just hold on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's like one thing that I'm worried about too, because when we like my sister and I were talking about it, when we were like seriously considering, like we were like looking at commercial buildings, like costing it out, like we heard like from one of our friends like at the market where she's like, yeah, I just had to go back to work full time so I could pay rent.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's not great right now.
No. And the economy, yeah.
And like with what we're doing every month, that it's like, cool, yeah, it's great for us like when our expenses are so low, but when we have like a building and that comes with staff, like, yeah, that's slowly would be not making that much.
Yeah. And then it's like, if you believe, which I tend to believe, that the economy is still going to get worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
Both in this country and the United States. I don't know if it's a good time. There might be a 6-month period in the next 2 years that people aren't really buying craft baked goods and whatnot.
Yeah.
Because they can't afford it.
Well, that's exactly it.
Yeah. So, and obviously it's a moving situation.
Yeah.
Like I was just telling you a story off camera where my friend opened a second location of her coffee shop, but she didn't really want to. But the person that owned the building that she went in gave her a very, very good deal because they just wanted a coffee shop in their place.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, and then they like gave her a very below market deal.
Yeah. See, that makes sense to me though. Like if someone handed me that,
yeah, well, that's what I mean.
Like then I would be like, of course, we would go for it.
Yeah, but that's what I mean is like things change. You know what I mean?
That's exactly.
And being like a good skill that entrepreneurs have is you need to be able to pivot quickly.
Definitely.
And kind of roll with the punches and change things for whatever.
Yeah.
So I would I think do at least another year. I think longer, honestly. Like I think until things kind of start to turn around economically, and then also importantly, I think when you start to see like month to month your sales aren't really getting bigger, then I think probably start to reevaluate.
Yeah.
Because like for my business, we didn't start thinking about going to new avenues until we like maxed out the avenue that we were doing. Right,
where it's like you're kind of hitting the same numbers all the time, and like
year like one, basically probably the first like 18 to 24 months we were just focused on like retail delivery and like wholesale to the government liquor stores. That was all I was focused on. And then once we kind of maxed out the amount of sales we could be doing on there, realistically, like we went from like we doubled in size the first year, doubled in size the second year, and then when it like started not doing that, then it was like, all right, we need to focus on new avenues. And then that's when we started doing our farmers markets and events and stuff. And then when we kind of maxed that out, then we're like, all right, let's build a bar then. And then we built the bar. And then once we maxed out what we could do in the bar, we opened a second bigger location, right? So we kind of like were patient with that part of the business, even though I jumped all in to, I didn't jump into a 100-seat bar with a restaurant and whatever day one.
Imagine?
Well, yeah, we would have gone out of business.
Crazy.
But I didn't jump into that day one.
Yeah.
So even though it's all matter of perspective, right? Even though it seems like I started so much bigger than you, realistically, I didn't start that much bigger.
Yeah, well,
right?
I mean, it's also like circumstance, right?
Yeah,
that it
of
was
course.
like you were saying in the beginning, that it's like there's no way that you could have done it just at your house.
Yeah.
Legally.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the fact that you can kind of like you get a little bit of there's a benefit there. And I think as long as you're still growing using the same method, like speaking from my own experience, I don't know if there's any reason to stop doing what you're doing if it's working. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Because I can tell you for a fact, as soon as you take a loan to get a coffee shop or whatever, like the you know what I mean? Cafe, I guess is what you would call. You want to be like a bakery, but have like a place for people to sit and do beverages and stuff like that. So
want to make sandwiches.
Yeah, bakery, cafe, restaurant kind of thing.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, it's going to cost more than you think it's going to cost.
Oh, I
promise
absolutely.
you. I promise you.
Well, and there's like, I mean, even just like seeing again from working for you, seeing like your like the big project was building the bar, the new bar, and man, everything adds up.
Everything adds up real quick, and you go over budget real quick.
Yeah,
and
everyone wants money.
Everyone wants to be paid at the same time.
Yeah, well, I know how to paint now, so
that's true.
So all the painting I'll do in the bakery.
Yeah. Well, when you got to sign minimum 3 years somewhere. You're not going to find a commercial lease nowadays for less than that.
Yeah. Well, and like honestly, like, and like maybe this makes me like a bad entrepreneur, but it's like I just don't think that we're ready for it.
Yeah.
Which feels bad to say, but I also just would much rather do this as long as possible.
Yeah.
Like my business, I want to keep it around as long as possible, and so it's like if I don't have to put it in jeopardy for no reason,
I'd
rather not.
Like there was a restaurant here in the north end of the city that was around for like 40 years, like multiple generational owners, and then they expanded to another location in like the more downtown kind of central area or whatever, in an enormous building with enormous rent. And they went out of business within 6 months, and it crashed the entire
6 months.
Yeah. And it crashed the entire enterprise, both locations.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah. So it's like something's been working for so long, and then they're like, well, if it works over here, it must work.
Right.
Whatever. So I don't want you, not saying you would, but I don't want you to be in a situation where you're like, oh, people love this bread at these farmers markets. This is working so well. And then you open a place and no one goes.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, exactly. But especially like, I mean, especially where we are, I'm sure. I don't know. I was going to say I'm sure that's how it is in other cities. I don't think so. I take it back. But like for our city especially, it's like location is huge.
Yeah.
Like there's some places that like, I'm not going to say, what I'm talking about.
Don't say any brands. But.
No, but like that like should not work.
No.
But they have a great location.
There's worse businesses in the same industry. Let's just use coffee shop as an example. Yeah. There's worse coffee shops in better locations that do better.
Yeah, and that's just how it is. Like that's
yeah. And I restaurant, I think the entire service industry really is location. I think.
No, absolutely.
And like we get a lot of people that say that at our place. Like we're kind of in the industrial area of town. And we'll do like a concert every so often, and we'll have like a hipster kind of concert. So all the people from like downtown and like that kind of area, where like the younger, lower economic people kind of live, they'll all come down to the place and whatever. And they, en masse, they're like, oh, this place would be awesome. Like in my neighborhood.
You should open another location.
Yeah, you should open it. If you open this, I would be there every day. And it's just like, we picked our location for the manufacturing, not for the bar.
Yeah, which
because
is smart.
The bar is just an add-on to our core business, which is making and selling wine.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and if you can't do that, you don't have a business, right?
Exactly, yeah. So we picked our location based on manufacturing, not based on service.
Yeah.
Right? And then the rent's cheap is a benefit for sure.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Compared to...
I'd be paying 3, 4, 5 times the amount per square foot that I'd be paying in a prime location.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, the pros and cons, too. That it's like, all of the cons are just, like, that we're, like, basically a seasonal business.
Yeah.
And...
Right now, you mean?
Yeah. Not you. Like I always say we because it's like I'm also a part of your business, but the bakery. It's very seasonal.
No, but like not, just to be clear, not your hypothetical bakery with a location.
No.
Your business
right
how
now,
it's set up
currently.
Right now. Yeah, you make probably 80% of your money from May long weekend to September long weekend.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and then like a little bit during like the Christmas season, but then it drops off, and then that does for like all service stuff, but like also when there's no markets we don't have anything.
Yeah.
And like we do like online stuff, but like there's only so much we can do, and that's like another thing I think we can get into one day. But yeah, I mean, people just want to go somewhere and buy it. They don't really want to like fill out a form and pay for delivery for a loaf of bread.
Yeah. No,
At least I've found.
Yeah, and that's fair. I think your business is a little bit weird, like weirder than mine.
No, definitely.
Where it's almost like a middle ground, where like people would pay for delivery for like obviously a restaurant, like a hot food, because then they don't have to cook it, and then people will pay for delivery for like a bottle of wine.
Yeah.
But it's weird paying delivery for what is essentially groceries.
Yeah.
Like your baked goods are essentially groceries, right?
And don't get me wrong, like people have, and I'm always like surprised and grateful, but it's not the same volume. Like it's not equivalent to what the rest of the summer is.
Well, I think the average person wouldn't even think of it. They wouldn't even be like, I'm gonna buy my loaf of bread with next day delivery online. Like if they're gonna do that, they're gonna do like Instacart.
Yeah.
Or whatever,
absolutely.
Right? And get all their shit at the same time. But it's not like they're ordering from every different supplier. They're ordering from their bakery and their veggie guy and their meat guy all separate online. Yeah. Like it seems like and
that's why the farmers markets work, right? Because it's all in one place. It's all whatever. But the amount of people like all the customers like at the end of the season that are like, well, see you next year.
Yeah.
And we're like, well, we have this online. They're like, see you next year. It's like, okay. Fair enough.
Yeah.
So that's the only, I would say, con is.
Yeah, and I guess
maybe not only, but.
Yeah, like you are limited to your upside.
Yeah.
You know, with a building, obviously you have more opportunity for growth, but you have more opportunity for failure as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially because it's like getting through that slow season, man, with like your payroll doesn't stop, your rent doesn't stop. They want their check even though it's a slow season.
Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah, they don't care if you're making less
per month. Doesn't matter to them. They just want their money. So
it's like, and I think because of like, you know, us being baby entrepreneurs and the bakery itself just being a baby.
Yeah.
Like I think growth is probably the most important thing to focus on. So
yeah, and I think like as long as you're taking all the extra money that you save on rent and you're either putting it away to save for an eventual space or bigger equipment or whatever, or more importantly, you're investing it right now. Yeah. Probably on your business, as long as the money's being productive, like it's invested in the stock market or something, I wouldn't hate. But
should I put it all into Bitcoin?
Yeah, Bitcoin's up like 20% today. Thank you, President Trump. But I think that as long as like your money should be used to upgrade your business, but as long as you're using that extra cash, you're saving, you know, let's say your rent's going to be $5,000 a month. As long as you're taking that $5,000 a month and you're next month you buy a $5,000 mixer and you buy a $5,000 oven and you buy you're putting this money back into your business to create better equipment, better systems and whatnot. As long as you're spending the money like that, I'm not mad at you for not taking the next step and saving money. Yeah. The only way I would be mad is like the people that pay off their credit card and then put it back on. That metaphor is like, I'd be mad at you if you were just like lifestyle inflating yourself. Yeah. Because look at all this profit margin we make, so we can blow the money, right? Yeah. So I want it to remain in the company, and I want it to be productive. And in that case, I think waiting a bit and doing it right, because that's something to say as well. It's like I had to move locations in year 6, because our old location wasn't doing it anymore. Like it was too small and it wasn't, whatever. But it's like, do you want to have to do that every 3 years? Just like keep moving, getting a little place, getting a little bit bigger place, getting a little bit bigger place. Yeah. Or if you just kind of build a better customer, base, you can afford a better day one, perhaps. Yeah. And then that kind of snowballs where you have like, if you have more offerings and you have a bigger space, then you're going to be able to get more customers. And then like day one, you're already doing better than you would be.
Yeah. Like if you just open.
If you just open a shitty little, whatever. What it was. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think that's valid.
Yeah.
So don't show up with designer bags.
if you pass on getting a lease and then show up with a Gucci bag,
I think you'd respect it.
I would rob you.
Fair. Cool.
Cool. Okay, thank you for listening to Mentor. This has been Willows and Alyssa.
Forget my name.
No.